I thought our wedding night would be magical. We were supposed to spend it wrapped in each other's arms, whispering about our future and laughing about the silly things that had happened that day. Instead, I opened the door to our honeymoon suite and saw my husband in bed with someone. It wasn't some stranger, it was my mother, and that was just the beginning of the nightmare. Hold on, let me take you back to where this all started, because if you're going to understand how deep this betrayal cut, you need to see the day through my eyes. The day had begun like a fairy tale. My hair had been braided with tiny pearls, my makeup was perfect, and I felt like a princess in my white dress. The sun was shining, the air smelled like roses, and the whole world seemed to be conspiring to make me happy. I stood in front of the mirror in the bridal suite, laughing and crying at the same time. My heart was pounding with joy. My mother was there, fussing over my veil, wiping away her own tears of happiness. She kissed my forehead and whispered, "You're going to make such a beautiful bride." I hugged her, feeling grateful. She was my best friend and my rock. The man waiting for me at the end of that aisle was charming and handsome. He made me feel seen and loved. He always knew what to say to make me laugh. He planned a dozen surprise dates to make sure our engagement was memorable. He promised me we'd have a long life together full of love and laughter. My father squeezed my hand as we walked down the aisle. Friends and family stood, clapping and smiling. For a moment, the whole world paused. I saw my groom's face light up when he saw me. I saw pride in my father's eyes. I saw my mother's lips trembling as she tried not to sob. It felt like perfection. Looking back, I want to shake myself. There were cracks in the fairy tale, tiny hairline fractures that hinted at the disaster lurking underneath. I was too blinded by the spotlight to notice. At the reception, my mom and my groom seemed unusually close. She laughed at his jokes a little too hard. He leaned into her when he spoke, his hand lingering on her arm longer than necessary. I remember catching them whispering in the corner. Their heads were close, their smiles secretive. I felt a tiny pang of discomfort. I walked over to them, and they immediately pulled apart. "Everything okay?" I asked, forcing a smile. "Of course," my mother chirped. "He was just telling me how lucky he is." I told myself not to be paranoid. It was my wedding day. There was champagne. There was dancing. There was cake. We fed each other slices, smearing frosting on our noses. He kissed me, and the room cheered. My mother wiped away tears and clapped. People kept telling me how sweet my mother was to help with everything. "Your mom loves you so much," my maid of honor whispered. "She looks happier than you." As the night wore on, more weirdness surfaced. My mother slipped away from the reception early. "I'm not feeling well," she told me, kissing my cheek. "I'm going to lie down." I asked if she needed anything. "Just enjoy your night," she said, her eyes sparkling. My groom squeezed my hand reassuringly. "She's probably exhausted from all of the planning," he said. I nodded. It was logical. She'd thrown herself into planning the entire wedding. But there was something in her eyes when she said goodbye, something I couldn't name. We danced, we laughed, we took a million photos. But my mind kept drifting back to those whispered conversations. I told myself I was ridiculous. Maybe I was jealous of the attention my groom gave my mother. Maybe I was just nervous about our first night together as husband and wife. I ignored the sinking feeling in my stomach. I chose to believe my love story was perfect. After all, what could go wrong on my wedding day? Finally, the reception ended. Guests tossed rose petals as we ran toward the getaway car. We waved goodbye and drove off into the night, our hands intertwined. My groom leaned over and kissed my neck. "I can't wait to be alone with you," he murmured. His breath was warm against my ear. For a moment, my worries melted away. We arrived at the hotel. The bellhop took our bags. My groom picked me up in his arms and carried me across the threshold, like in every romantic movie. We laughed. He whispered something about forever. My heart swelled. He handed me the key card. "Why don't you go up first and freshen up?" he suggested. "I'll get us some champagne." I nodded, feeling butterflies. I kissed him quickly and headed to the elevator. I remember looking back as the elevator doors closed. He blew me a kiss. His eyes were shining. If you had told me then what I was about to see, I would have laughed in your face. The elevator ride felt like an eternity. My pulse was pounding. I thought about our future. I thought about how I would wake up next to him for the rest of my life. I reached our floor and walked down the hallway. My heels clicked against the carpet. My hand shook as I slid the keycard into the lock. I pushed the door open, expecting rose petals and candles. Instead, I heard hushed voices and muffled laughter. For a second, I thought maybe the hotel had given someone else our room by accident. But then, I recognized my husband's laugh. It sent chills down my spine. The room was dimly lit. I could see the outline of two people tangled in the bed. My stomach dropped. I flipped on the light. My husband jerked upright, his eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. Beside him, naked except for the sheet she clutched to her chest, was my mother. Time stopped. My mind refused to process what my eyes were seeing. My brain screamed, "This isn't happening. This can't be happening. It's a nightmare. Wake up." But it was real. My mother's hair spilled across the pillow. Her lipstick was smeared. My husband's chest rose and fell rapidly. The sheets were twisted around their legs. Their faces were flushed with guilt and panic. For a few seconds, no one moved. It felt like an eternity. Then everything shattered. "What? The hell?" I whispered. My voice sounded foreign. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't feel them. Tears burned in my eyes. My breath came in short gasps. I felt like I might vomit. My husband scrambled to cover himself. "Baby, wait! It's not what it looks like," he stammered. My mother reached for her robe. "Sweetheart, calm down," she pleaded. "Please, let us explain." "Explain? Explain what? How do you explain sleeping with your daughter's husband on her wedding night?" I screamed. It was a raw, animalistic sound. It echoed off the walls. I felt my throat tearing. "How could you?" I cried. "Both of you! How could you do this to me? To our family?" My husband jumped out of bed, still trying to wrap a sheet around himself. He reached for me. "I'm sorry. It was a mistake. It meant nothing," he blurted. I slapped his hands away. "Don't touch me," I yelled. "Don't ever touch me again." I looked at my mother, the woman who had rocked me to sleep, who had wiped my tears when boys broke my heart, who had promised me on my wedding day that my groom loved me. She sat there, tears streaming down her face, clutching the sheet to her chest like it could protect her from the truth. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It just happened. We didn't want to hurt you." I laughed. It was hysterical and ugly. "It just happened?" I repeated. "You just accidentally fell into bed with my husband? On my wedding night?" Anger seared through me like a hot iron. "You didn't just betray me. You erased me," I said. "You took the man I promised my life to and turned him against me. You destroyed our family for sex." My voice was shaking, but I meant every word. My husband tried again to explain. "It was a one-time mistake," he insisted. "We were drunk. We got carried away. I love you, not her. He stumbled over his words. "It just happened so fast." My mother shook her head. "Don't blame it on the alcohol," she said softly. "We both made choices. We can't take them back." She reached out toward me. "Please, sweetheart, please don't hate me. Please, let's talk about this." I took a step back. "Talk?" I said. "Talk about what? How long has this been going on?" They looked at each other. My stomach turned. Their silence was my answer. "How long?" I demanded. "Tell me the truth." My husband swallowed hard. "A few months," he admitted. "It started at your birthday party. We were talking, and it just spiraled. I felt like I'd been punched." A few months. That meant it had begun before the wedding. He had been sleeping with my mother while planning to marry me. My vision blurred. I leaned against the wall for support. "And there's more," my mother whispered, her voice barely audible. "I think I might be pregnant." The words hung in the air like smoke. Time slowed. The room spun. Pregnant. My mother might be carrying my husband's child. My mind couldn't comprehend the cruelty. I slid down the wall, my legs no longer able to hold me. I covered my face and sobbed. Gut-wrenching, soul-crushing sobs. I wasn't just betrayed, I was obliterated. Everything I thought I knew about my life was gone. I could taste the salt of my tears. I could feel my chest heaving. I could hear my own heart shattering. My husband knelt beside me, tears streaming down his face. "Please, please, please," he begged. "We'll fix this. We'll make it right. I love you. I don't love her. I made a mistake. I made a horrible mistake." My mother sobbed too, her hands trembling. "We don't want to lose you," she whispered. "Please, please don't tell anyone. We'll end it. We'll pretend it never happened. We can be a family again. Please." I looked up at them through my tears. In that moment, something inside me hardened. They didn't want to lose me because they didn't want to face the consequences. They didn't love me enough to not do this. They loved themselves. They loved their pleasure. They loved their secret. They were willing to sacrifice me for it. I stood up. My legs felt like jelly, but I forced them to hold me. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand. "Get dressed," I said, my voice cold. "Both of you." They blinked, confused. "What are you doing?" my husband asked. "I'm going back to the reception," I said, each word clipped. "We still have guests downstairs. They deserve to know who they're toasting. We're going to tell everyone the truth." My mother gasped. "No!" she cried. "You can't! Please! We'll be ruined!" I stared at her. "You should have thought of that before climbing into bed with my husband," I said. I turned to my husband. "If you care about me at all, you'll come downstairs and confess what you've done. Otherwise, I'll do it for you." He shook his head, panic flashing across his face. "This will destroy us," he said. "We can figure it out. Please, don't do this." I laughed again. "Destroy us?" I repeated. "You destroyed us the moment you decided to sleep with my mother. There is no us. There is only truth and lies, and I'm done living in your lies." They dressed quickly, hands trembling. We walked back to the elevator in silence. The world seemed to tilt. Everything felt surreal. My veil trailed behind me like a ghost. When the elevator doors opened onto the reception hall, music and laughter spilled out. Our friends were still drinking. My father was chatting with an uncle. My bridesmaids were on the dance floor. The DJ was about to play our first dance song on repeat. None of them knew that the fairy tale had already rotted from the inside. I marched to the microphone. My husband and my mother trailed behind me, eyes downcast. "Excuse me," I said, tapping the mic. The DJ turned down the music. Heads turned toward me. "Thank you all for coming," I said, my voice shaking. "I have a toast to make, to love, to family, and to betrayal." A murmur rippled through the room. "On this night, the man I married and the woman who gave birth to me decided to celebrate our union by sleeping together." Gasps, murmurs. Someone dropped a glass. My father froze, his face draining of color. My bridesmaids looked at me, mouths open. I continued. "They've been having an affair for months, and my mother might be pregnant with my husband's child." Silence. Then chaos. People started yelling. Someone shouted, "Is this a joke?" Others started whispering. My father stormed toward the stage. He grabbed my husband by the collar. "Is this true?" he barked. My husband's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He looked at me, then at my mother, then at my father. "It's true," he croaked. My father's fist clenched. He looked at my mother. "How could you?" he whispered, his voice breaking. She burst into tears. The room erupted. Some people cried, others shouted. My groom's best man swore and stormed out. My maid of honor hugged me tight. "Oh my God, oh my God," she whispered. Cameras recorded everything. Phones were out. People were filming. I didn't care. Let the world see. Let everyone know. I wanted them to feel the shame that they had tried to keep hidden. I felt oddly calm. A numbness settled over me like a thick blanket. I took off my wedding ring. It felt cold in my palm. I held it up for everyone to see. "This ring was supposed to symbolize love and commitment," I said. "But tonight, It's nothing but a symbol of lies. I dropped it on the dance floor. It hit the wood with a dull thud. It rolled in a small circle and stopped at my husband's feet. He bent to pick it up, his shoulders shaking. I turned to my mother. "You said you'd always protect me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You lied." I turned to my father. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down his face. He opened his arms and pulled me into a hug. "You did nothing wrong," he said. "Nothing." As I walked out of the reception hall, I felt hundreds of eyes on me. Some were sympathetic, others curious. I didn't care. I pushed open the doors and stepped into the night air. It was cool and quiet. The chaos behind me seemed like a distant nightmare. I took a deep breath. For the first time that day, I felt something like clarity. The next few weeks were a blur. Gossip spread like wildfire. Family members took sides. My father filed for divorce. My mother tried to call me, but I blocked her number. My husband showed up at my apartment banging on the door, begging me to talk. I never opened it. I received messages from strangers telling me I was brave. Others accused me of making it up for attention. I didn't care what strangers thought. I knew my truth. People asked me why I chose to expose them publicly. They said I should have handled it privately. Here's the thing. They didn't just cheat. They planned it. They lied to my face. They destroyed my family. They took my wedding day, a day that was supposed to be about love and trust, and turned it into a nightmare. That night broke me, and I made sure it broke them too. They deserved to face the humiliation they tried to hide. They deserved to see the ripple effect of their selfishness. Months passed. The pain didn't disappear overnight. Sometimes I woke up crying. Sometimes I felt numb. Holidays were awkward. I cut my mother out of my life. She sent letters and flowers. I sent them back unopened. My father and I grew closer. We leaned on each other. We started going to therapy together. We learned how to rebuild our lives without the people who hurt us. It was hard. It was messy. But slowly, I started to heal. I took off my wedding dress and donated it. I threw away the wedding album. I redecorated my apartment. I changed my hair. I started going on walks alone at night, feeling the cool air on my face and reminding myself I was alive. I met new people. I started writing down my feelings. I allowed myself to rage, to cry, to laugh again. I realized that my value didn't depend on someone else's loyalty. I wasn't just a betrayed bride. I was a woman who survived unimaginable betrayal and came out stronger. The irony? The affair didn't last. My mother miscarried. My husband spiraled. They tried to stay together out of guilt and shared shame, but they hated what they saw in each other. They blamed each other. They broke up within months. My mother ended up alone in a small apartment. My husband left town. I heard whispers that he couldn't find work because everyone knew what he'd done. I didn't feel sorry for them. They made their choices. I still believe in love. I believe in loyalty. I know there are men who would never dream of betraying their wife with her mother. I know there are mothers who would rather die than hurt their child. I will find my own happiness again. But I will never forget the lesson I learned. If you're sitting there, shaking your head, thinking, this can't be real, trust me, I wish it wasn't. If you're wondering what I could have done differently, know this. Sometimes the people you love the most will hurt you in ways you can't imagine. That doesn't mean you should close yourself off from love. It means you should pay attention to those tiny cracks. Trust your gut. And if someone betrays you, you have every right to decide how you react. Before I go, I have a question for you. What would you do if your husband slept with your mom? Would you expose them like I did? Would you stay quiet? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to see how others would handle something this insane. And if you want to hear more unbelievable love stories, because yes, somehow they get even more messed up, make sure you hit subscribe. Next week's story is even worse. You won't want to miss it.